The Williamsport Sun-Gazette is pleased to welcome Jamie Flick, a candidate for the Republican nomination for the State House's 83rd District, for an interview ahead of the May 17 primary. Today's interview is being conducted by Mike Manival, managing editor of the Williamsport Sun-Gazette.
Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Flick. Would you like to take a few moments to introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure, thanks, Mike. My name's Jamie Flick. I was born here in Lycoming County in Montgomery, moved to the Nippenose Valley, grew up on a farm there with 5 brothers, which is where I learned my work ethic. Graduated from the Williamsport Area Community College and started my own business in the mid to late 1980s, a software firm in Williamsport on Reach Road, and still run that software firm.
Thank you. Should the state improve its homestead farmstead program for property tax rebates or replace it with another model for property tax relief? How and why?
Yeah, thank you for that. I actually have what I believe is a bit of a unique answer to that. When you talk to a lot of the state reps and congressmen, what you see is a lot of tax shifting. They'll take a bump up the 6% to 6.5%, or shift this tax into that tax, or different acts that they do that. My thought is, as a conservative, is I'm very much pro-drilling, and that may be one of your other questions down there about energy. But I believe that Lycoming County, north central and central Pennsylvania, has so much, not that I believe, it's a fact, so much Marcellus shale and so much natural gas underneath that, we could export for the next 300 years. Lycoming County and north central PA really should be above Texas, and we should be able to export to the entire country. And that's how I would lower property taxes.
The state's budget proposal for 2022 is $43.7 million. Which single state program should be the top priority for elimination or reduction in spending, and why?
Well, I don't think the state really has a problem with the income. And as you probably know, Mike, the budget at the state has doubled in the last decade. I don't know a single constituent or a single family within the 83rd district or 84th or any district, not a single family whose budget has doubled in the last decade. That's insane by Governor Wolf. It's out of hand. It can't be met. It needs to be cut. So there's a lot of programs that could be cut. We're all in favor of a safety net, absolutely. However, I think there's people jumping into the safety net. So we have to take a good hard look at that. And we have to take a good hard look at every line item in the budget. So when I get to Harrisburg, I will start at step 1 and review every line item.
What measures should the state pursue to foster job creation in rural Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I go back to my first answer, and that is energy jobs. And I don't want to limit just to that. But when you start with those energy jobs, and we add several thousand energy jobs, that all trickles down into many, many more jobs, hotels, restaurants, all sorts of tax revenue to come from that. If you look at the red tape, and that again, that may be one of your questions, but the red tape that exists in Harrisburg, and it's easy for Harrisburg to say to Washington, D.C., or to say to their constituents, hey, it's Washington's problem, we're doing what we can. That's just not true. Harrisburg is not doing what they can do. If you compare Harrisburg to, let's say, Austin, Texas, the capital of Texas, they don't have those same issues in Austin, and they're dealing with D.C. also. So the red tape that Texas takes care of, for example, you can build roads and get permits in a couple months in Texas. It takes a couple years in Pennsylvania. We used to be a leader. Now we're not even a follower. We're like in last place in every category that there is in Harrisburg.
We see throughout the country that teachers' unions often are an obstacle to terminating bad teachers. What concrete steps can the state legislature take to correct this in Pennsylvania?
Well, I'll tell you why it hasn't been corrected yet. And there's several different avenues that you can go down. But if you look at the 203 state reps, and if the Sun-Gazette would study those, this would be a great project to give to maybe one of your interns. Look at all 203 state reps. And it's quasi-transparent now that you can see who donated. So you can see the teachers union. Look at those 203 state reps. See how much each one of those reps got donated from the teachers unions, which is millions and millions of dollars, and then see how they vote. Right? For my candidacy, I'm receiving $0. I've pledged at the beginning to take no money, not just from the teachers union, no money from any special interest group, no money from any lobbyist, from any PAC, from any super PAC, and not even a local business. I've been offered tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, And I'm just saying I can't be bought. So I guess the answer is, Mike, I got to get in there. I've got to study it. The term doesn't start till January, so that gives me plenty of time to study this topic.
Okay. What role should the state government have in rehabilitating brownfields or industrial sites with severe environmental damage, and why?
Okay, so for the brownfields, that's a great question. In this area, we have a number of those. On a personal note, I took a brownfield myself. It's probably been 9 or 10 years ago in Armstrong Township, which is in Lycoming County. It's a 4-acre lot, previous junkyard. I didn't look for any handouts from the government whatsoever. Everybody's always looking for a handout. Instead of growing up on a farm, I sort of went the old-fashioned method. I got my 5 brothers, I got my kids, I got my nephews, my nieces, got my 88-year-old father, and we went to work sort of 1 inch at a time, and we cleaned up that entire brownfield. That brownfield had hundreds and hundreds of tractor trailers, cars, vans, buses, a pond with oil drums in it. And we did that. So the best solutions are the ones that don't involve the government. So I think the state should have a limited role in the cleanup. Sort of a sidekick to that is DEP. You know, we need to make vast improvements with DEP. So we cleaned up, again, this brownfield area. It had about a 1/4 acre pond. I knew it was pond. You know how I knew, Mike? It had water and fish in it. To me, I'm thinking that's probably a pond. You know, my 10-year-old knows it's a pond. My 12-year-old knows it's a pond. All the neighbors that fish in it know it's a pond. DEP couldn't quite figure that out. It took them a year to say, you need this permit, you need this permit. We're not sure if it's a pond. It's a pond. Any first grader could tell you that. So we really need to not just study, we need to get rid of the red tape that bogs down what happens in Harrisburg.
Can you tell us about some of the priorities you would have as a lawmaker that our questions didn't touch on today?
Sure. I mean, there's thousands of House bills. One is I would certainly go on to start looking at transparency. Pennsylvania ranks, if you look every single year, in the top 5 corrupt states in the nation, year after year after year. I would say, thank God for Chicago, thank God for Illinois, that we have somebody that beats us. But we got to look at expanding the right to know law and the FOIA and just become more transparent, starting with the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. The lawmakers, as a lawmaker, we're supposed to make the laws, and the courts are supposed to follow that laws. I can tell you firsthand that does not happen. The courts themselves do not follow the law. That needs to be addressed by all of the lawmakers. I would also, Mike, when I get there, look at a couple of the different tax rates. The corporate tax rate, highest in the nation, 9.9%. That stifles growth, even in the energy sector, from coming to central PA and north central PA. If you were going to pay 9.9% in Pennsylvania to start a corporation, and I know because I have a corporation, you're going to stop when you get to the border. You're going to go to West Virginia, Ohio, New Jersey, New York, Maryland. You're just going to stop where the tax rate is much, much lower. So it's not just the energy sector, but every sector. People don't come here. Companies don't come here. For the constituents to thrive, we need industry to come. So I would also look at the gas tax. 58.5 cents every time you put a gallon of gas in your car. 58.5 cents of that goes right into Harrisburg's pocket. Where's that money go? It's the second highest gas tax in the nation. So one would sort of assume we would have the second best bridges and the second best roads. You think we have that, Mike? You travel. We don't. We're not even in the top 25 for the best bridges and roads. So I would look at day one, an immediate relief. People need to get to work and back. If you're working a part-time job and you're driving an hour now and you're getting 15 miles, 20 miles to the gallon and making minimum wage, it's barely worth you going to that part-time job and coming back. We have teenagers, so we know what an obstacle that is. All right, and then I would say one more would be, staying in line with the taxes, would be the inheritance tax in Pennsylvania. We are ranked the 3rd highest state when it comes overall to taxes. The inheritance tax, you work your whole life, all right? You get a home, you have a couple kids, you reach your 60s, your 70s, your 80s, and you want to leave something behind. The minute you die, again, Harrisburg is reaching in your pocket, and if you leave something behind for your kids, they're taking 4.5%. If you don't have kids and you leave it to a sibling, they're taking 11%. If you leave it to somebody else, they're taking 16%. It's absurd how much Pennsylvania, reaches into your pocket and takes. So I would address those few things immediately, Mike.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us today. Good luck out on the campaign trail and on Election Day.
Super. Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.